Leo had been on the alien training base for 3 weeks now, and every day felt more difficult than the last. Not because of the hard work or the strange foods or even the heavy gravity, but because of her, the tiny alien girl who never stopped. Teasing him, she was small, even among her kind, with sharp violet eyes and silver-white hair that floated like smoke when she moved. Her name was Ilya, and she acted like he was her personal joke. Every morning she'd find him in the training yard, tilt her head with a sly grin, and say something like, "Oh, the weak human is awake." At first, Leo tried to laugh it off, thinking she was just playing, but it didn't stop. During hand-to-hand combat drills, she would slip past his guard, tap his forehead, and say, "Too slow," when he lifted weights. She'd pretend to strain next to him with tiny pebbles, mocking his effort. Once she even followed him into the dining hall, mimicking his walk while others laughed. But Leo didn't fight back. He just smiled politely and walked away, because deep down, he didn't hate her. In fact, something about her made him curious. She wasn't cruel, not really. Her teasing was sharp, but never truly mean. And sometimes, just sometimes, when no one else was looking, her smile would vanish, and her eyes would grow quiet. That's when Leo started to wonder if she was hiding something. One afternoon, the camp held a tech demonstration. Leo had spent 2 weeks building a portable shield generator. It was his chance to prove his skills, but just as he started his presentation, a strange humming sound came from behind the machine, and it exploded with a harmless puff of smoke and sparks. Laughter erupted from the trainees, and Ilya stood near the back, her fingers still crackling with light. She had tampered with it. Leo knew it, but she only smiled and shrugged. "Your tech is fragile, like you," she said. Leo didn't say a word. He just packed up his things and left the yard. The other humans tried to comfort him, but he didn't want comfort. He just wanted to be alone. He sat on the edge of the courtyard under the pale green sky, watching the twin suns sink low over the red hills as night fell. The base lights flickered. A power surge passed through the main grid, and the alarm buzzed once, just once. Then silence. Leo stood and looked around, confused. No one else seemed worried. Maybe it was a glitch. But as he walked back to the dormitory, he heard a sound, soft and broken. Echoing through the quiet hallway, it was crying, a slow, choked kind of cry. Like someone trying hard not to be heard, he followed the sound until he reached a dark corner near the storage rooms, and there, sitting on the cold floor, knees to chest, head down, was Ilya. Leo paused, not sure what to do. Her shoulders trembled, and her face was hidden. He took a slow step forward and knelt beside her. "Ilya?" he said gently. She didn't look up, but her voice came, small and tight. "Go away, human." Leo didn't move. He just stayed there beside her. "I won't tell anyone," he said after a moment. "Whatever this is, it's just between us." Finally, she looked at him, and Leo was shocked by her face. No smirk, no grin, only pain. Her eyes were wet and shining, and her voice was barely a whisper. "You were right to hate me. I don't hate you," Leo said quietly. She looked away, wiping her face with the sleeve of her training suit. "I teased you so much because I didn't want anyone to see how scared I am," she said. "They all think I'm strong, but I'm not. I'm the weakest of my kind. I don't want them to see me cry." Leo didn't know what to say at first. This was the same girl who had mocked him every day, and now she looked like a child, lost and afraid. "Then why me?" he asked gently. "Why tease me?" She gave a shaky breath. "Because you never fought back," she said. "You never shouted, never hit me. It made me feel safe. Like, maybe you wouldn't laugh if you saw the real me." Leo reached out and placed his jacket around her shoulders. "You don't have to pretend anymore. Not around me," he said. She held the jacket tightly. nodding. Just, "Don't tell anyone." "I won't," he promised. They sat in silence. The hallway quiet and calm now. The shadows long and still. Elia leaned slightly toward him. And he let her. Her head rested against his arm, and she finally stopped shaking. That night, she didn't tease him that night. She cried softly in his arms, and Leo understood her more than he ever thought he would. The next morning, Leo woke early, not because of a schedule or alarm, but because something felt different in the room. The silence wasn't cold, was soft, like a blanket wrapped around two people instead of one. He opened his eyes and saw her, curled up on the small floor mat near the heater, still wearing his jacket. Her breathing was slow, steady, her silver hair spread across the pillow like soft thread. For a moment, Leo forgot where he was, and just watched her sleep. The same girl who used to mock him was now resting like she hadn't in years. He made no noise, just moved quietly to the corner and sat with his tablet. But she stirred, her violet eyes blinking slowly open. For a second, she looked confused, then embarrassed. "I stayed here," she whispered. Leo nodded. "Yeah, you did." "I didn't mean to," she said quickly, pulling his jacket off her shoulders and folding it neatly. I didn't want to go back." "You don't have to explain," he said gently. "You're safe here." She looked at him with a strange expression, half suspicious, half grateful. "You really won't tell anyone?" she asked again. "I promised," Leo said, "and I keep my word." Ilya sat up slowly, her hands shaking just a little. "Back home, if you cry, you're weak," she said. "And weak ones don't stay in the tribe." Leo frowned. "What do they do to them?" "They make them leave," she said, her voice flat. "They call it the soft cut, like trimming a sick branch before it spoils the tree." Leo felt a knot in his chest. "That's not fair." Ilya laughed without humor. "That's life," she said. "So I learned to laugh first, before anyone laughed at me. I made others feel small, so I wouldn't feel smaller." Leo looked down at his hands, thinking of how many times she'd teased him. Now it made sense. She wasn't trying to hurt him, she was trying to survive. "Why me?" he asked softly. "Why not tease someone else?" She looked at him seriously. "Because you were kind," she said. "You were the only one who didn't try to prove something, the only one who didn't push back. I felt safe near you even while I was pretending not to." He smiled. "That's not the first time someone called me too soft." She tilted her head. "Maybe soft is not the same as weak." They sat quietly, the early light shining through the narrow window. Then she stood up, stretched her arms, and pulled back the collar of her shirt slightly. Leo noticed it for the first time, faint glowing lines on her skin, running from the base of her neck to her collarbone. Soft pink, pulsing slowly like light behind fogged glass. "What's that?" he asked. Her eyes widened, and she pulled her shirt back quickly. "Nothing." "Wait," Leo said, holding out his hand but not touching her. "It's okay, really." She looked around the room like someone searching for a hiding place. Then whispered, "It's a condition, a rare one. It shows weakness in my body, in my species. It means I'm broken." Leo frowned. "It doesn't look broken. It looks beautiful." She stared at him like she didn't understand. "No one says that." "Well," he shrugged, "I'm human. I see things differently." She sat back down slowly, her voice softer now. "If others find out, they'll report me to the elders. They'll make me leave the program. I can't go back home. I'll have no place." "You have one here," Leo said without thinking. She blinked, her voice shaking. "Why would you say that?" "'Cause I mean it," he said. "You're smart, fast, and strong in ways that matter more than muscle. You helped me with that tech demo last week, remember?" She gave a small smile. "I also ruined it, but you knew how it worked," he said. "That counts more than you think." There was a quiet moment. Then she said, Leo, can I stay in your room again tonight? He looked at her, surprised, but nodded. Of course. She leaned back against the wall, relaxed for the first time. Maybe I can stop pretending, just for a little while. You can, he said, with me. You don't have to pretend at all. She closed her eyes and sighed. You know, this base feels less cold now. Leo looked at her. At the small warrior girl who had once made him feel like a joke. Now sitting beside him like a quiet truth, and he knew something had changed. Not just between them, but inside both of them. Later that day, the training grounds were quiet. Most of the other recruits were inside the dorms, recovering from drills. But Leo and Ilya were alone in the back workshop. He was showing her how to connect circuits. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor, watching him closely, her face calm for once. Why do you move your fingers like that? She asked as he twisted two small wires together. It makes the bond cleaner, Leo said, smiling. And it keeps the spark from jumping out. She leaned forward, curious. Humans do everything so slow, but so carefully. He looked at her and said, You've been watching me this closely the whole time? She shrugged, a little embarrassed. You're the only one who doesn't make noise when he works. They kept working together for a while, and Leo noticed how quickly she learned. Her hands were small, but precise, and when she smiled without mocking him, she looked younger, lighter. But then something strange happened. As she reached across the table, her sleeve lifted, and he saw it again, those faint glowing lines on her skin, this time near her wrist, like soft light under thin glass. She froze, realizing he saw it. She quickly pulled her sleeve down, her expression hardening like a shield going up. I wasn't staring, Leo said softly. I just noticed. She looked away. You weren't supposed to. Are they painful? He asked gently. She shook her head. No, but they're dangerous. He tilted his head. To you. To my future, she said, her voice flat. My kind calls it a skin bloom. It's a rare condition when the energy inside the body doesn't flow right. It makes the skin glow in soft patterns. The elders say it's a fault. A flaw. Leo frowned. But how can something that beautiful be called a flaw? She laughed bitterly, because beauty doesn't help in battle. I don't agree, he said. Your mind is your weapon, not just your arms. She looked at him, confused. You really don't understand my people, do you? Probably not, Leo replied. But I understand you. She was quiet for a long time, then whispered, I wasn't supposed to be born. Leo blinked. What do you mean? I was born too early, she said. Too weak, too small. They said I would die, but I didn't, and that made them angry. Because now they had to hide me, protect me, feed me. All while pretending I was normal. Leo's chest tightened as he listened. Her voice wasn't angry, just tired. They taught me how to fight, but only enough to stay out of the way. They said if I ever let my skin bloom show in public, I'd bring shame to my bloodline, he said softly. You don't have to hide here, but they're watching. She said quickly, the council, the elders, the other trainees, they're all waiting for me to fail, to fall, so they can say, see, we were right. Leo leaned forward. I don't care what they say. You're not alone anymore. Her voice trembled. But if they see it, if they report me, I'll be removed, sent back to a cold place that never wanted me. He took a breath and looked her in the eyes. Then I'll help you hide it. She stared at him, shocked. Why? Because I care, he said. Because you're strong in ways no one else sees, and because I've been alone before too. Her eyes shimmered, not from light, but from something deeper. You would risk getting in trouble for me? He smiled gently. I already have. She blinked, then laughed a real laugh. Short and surprised. You're not what I expected. Human? Neither are you, he replied. For the rest of the evening, they worked side by side, Leo teaching her how to build a sensor module, Ilya showing him shortcuts in alien code. They talked, they listened, and for once, they didn't hide. Later, as the night grew deeper, Ilya stood near the heater again, this time not in fear, but in thought. She looked at him and asked, "Leo, if I was just me, not a warrior, not a fighter, would you still let me stay?" He nodded, yes, even more so. She stepped closer, voice quiet. "Then, I want to help you build something that helps me stay." "What do you mean?" he asked. "I want to help you make a suit," she said. "One that hides my bloom and strengthens my body." Leo's eyes widened. "You mean?" "Like armor." "More like a skin," she said. "A second skin, human-made." "Not alien-born," he smiled. "Then let's build it together." She nodded, and for the first time she looked proud, but not of what she was born as. Proud of what she was becoming. Together, they would build more than a suit. They would build trust, strength, and something the galaxy had forgotten how to believe in, hope. It had been 2 quiet days since Ilya and Leo began building the new suit. Each evening, they worked late, testing materials, hiding energy lines, and making sure the soft glow of her skin bloom would stay hidden under the layers of protective mesh. It wasn't perfect yet, but it was getting closer. Their bond was growing stronger, too. Ilya no longer teased him, not even once. Instead, she listened carefully, asked questions, and smiled in a way that was new, gentle, not sharp. Leo started to look forward to every hour with her, not just because of the project, but because of the peace they found together. But peace on the base never lasted long. That night, the sky above the colony turned dark too quickly. The twin moons vanished behind a thick fog. The stars blinked out one by one, and then sirens. The red lights flashed, alarms screamed across. The base, soldiers and trainees ran to shelters, shouting orders. The voice from the speaker was sharp and urgent. "Predator breach. Detected. Repeat. Predator breach. All non-combatants must evacuate." Leo stood frozen in the hallway, still holding the suit's chest plate in his hands. He turned to speak to Ilya, but she was gone. He looked around the room, under the workbench, behind the door. "Nothing, Ilya." He called out, "Where did you go?" Panic rose in his chest like fire. Outside, the rumble of footsteps echoed through the base, followed by a scream, then silence. Leo didn't think. He grabbed a basic shield module from his toolkit, locked it on his wrist, and ran toward the sounds. The lower levels were already half empty. Most had followed the emergency route to the shelter tunnels. But down near the old training arena, Leo heard something different: soft breathing, a faint voice, and the heavy steps of something much larger. He crept forward, hugging the wall, and then he saw them. 3 injured trainees huddled behind a broken column. One was bleeding from the leg, another was unconscious, and in front of them stood Ilya, alone, no weapon, no armor, just her body between them and the beast. The predator was twice her size, all claws and teeth, black skin like rock, and glowing red eyes that scanned the area without mercy. It stepped closer, ready to strike. Leo's heart dropped. She was shaking, but didn't move, her feet planted, her arms spread wide. "Run," she told the trainees behind her. "You move when I say so." But they couldn't. They were too hurt. Leo didn't wait another second. He jumped out from behind the wall and activated the small energy shield on his arm. The flash caught the predator's attention for just a moment, but it was enough. It turned, roared, and charged at Leo. Ilya screamed, "No." She launched forward, fast as lightning, grabbing the fallen spear from the ground, and threw it toward the beast. It struck its shoulder, making it stagger but not stop. Leo raised his shield, bracing for the hit. The beast slammed into him, sending him flying back, crashing into the wall. The shield flickered, but held. Pain shot through his ribs, but he forced himself to stand. He looked up and saw Ilya leap onto the beast's back, clawing at its eyes, shouting in her own alien tongue. She rode it like a wild storm, trying to protect Leo and the others. Her skin bloom pulsed brightly now, fully visible, but she didn't care. Leo knew he had to do something. He grabbed a damaged power cell from his belt, twisted the cap, and threw it under the beast's legs. The small explosion hit its foot, throwing it off balance. Ilya jumped clear just in time, rolling across the floor. Leo ran to her and pulled her behind a crate as the beast roared in pain. Then, finally, the sound of backup arrived. Elite guards with plasma rifles stormed the room, fired in perfect formation. And the beast collapsed under their shots. Silence followed. Smoke rose from the ground, and the red lights began to fade. Ilya lay on the floor, her side bruised, her skin bloom glowing through the torn pieces of her uniform. Leo knelt beside her, out of breath, his arm shaking. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She opened one eye and whispered, "Just sore." He gave a weak laugh. "You were incredible." She turned her head, eyes soft. "You came for me." "Of course I did," he said. "You were never alone." The guards looked at them, strangely, some already whispering about the glow on her skin. Leah saw it, and her face fell. "They'll report me now." "Let them," Leo said firmly. "They didn't see what I saw. You saved lives. You stood against a beast when everyone else ran." She closed her eyes, exhausted, and leaned into his arms. "I was so scared," she whispered. "But when I saw you, I knew I could fight." He held her tightly. "You were never weak, Ilya, not even once." And as the medics arrived and the guards pulled the beast's body away, Leo stayed by her side, not as her protector, but as her proof that someone saw her for who she truly was. Not a joke, not a flaw, but a fighter worth believing in. By morning, the news had already spread across the base. Everyone was talking not about the beast, not about the trainees who were saved, but about the glowing marks on Ilya's skin. She had saved lives, stood alone against danger, but none of it seemed to matter to the council. Only the mark did. The bloom. Leo stood outside the medical wing, arms crossed, heart heavy, inside. Ilya sat on a cot, bandaged and silent. A guard was posted outside her door, not for her safety, but to make sure she didn't run. A message arrived for Leo that afternoon. A summons from the training council. He walked into the meeting room and found 5 high-ranked officers seated behind a long table. Their expressions cold and unreadable. "State your name," one said. "Leo Dawson," he replied, standing straight. "You were with the subject during the incident." Another asked. "She's not a subject." Leo replied, voice tight, "Her name is Ilya. And she saved 3 lives last night." They looked at one another, then back at him. "We are aware of the beast attack and the outcome, but what concerns us is the visible energy bloom." Leo took a breath. She didn't choose that condition. "It doesn't affect her loyalty or her courage. It affects protocol," one said. Her kind agreed to hide such conditions to avoid panic. It was part of the entry agreement. She broke that? She broke nothing, Leo said firmly. She didn't reveal it by choice. She fought to save others while you were all hiding. Behind walls, there was a pause. Then the lead officer said, "She will be removed from the combat program and sent back to her people." "No," Leo said, heart pounding. "You don't understand. If you send her back, they'll exile her. Or worse, she has nowhere to go." "That is not our concern," came the reply. Leo's hands tightened into fists, but he stayed calm. "Then make it your concern. This base teaches strength, courage, unity, but when someone shows those things, and you punish them for it, what message are you really sending?" The room was quiet. Then the lead officer sighed. "We will consider your words. But until further notice, She is confined to quarters. Leo walked out of the room, pulse still racing, his jaw tight. He knew what this was. They were afraid of change, afraid of something different. That night, he returned to the medical wing. The guard stepped aside when he saw Leo's badge. Inside, Elia was sitting on the edge of the bed, her shoulders hunched, staring at the floor. "I heard them," she said softly without looking up. "They want me gone." Leo sat beside her. "They're wrong." "I don't belong here," she whispered. "They see my skin and only think of failure." "Then let them look," Leo said. "They didn't see what I saw." She finally looked at him, her eyes tired. "Why are you still here?" He smiled gently. "Because you never gave up on yourself, even when everyone else did." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she blinked them away. "I don't want to go back." "Leo, I can't." "You won't," he said. "We're going to fight this together." "How?" she asked. "They won't listen to me, then they'll listen to me," he replied. "Tomorrow. Kay, I'm showing the whole camp what you did, how you stood in front of a monster to save others. Kay, and how your glow wasn't weakness, but strength." Ilya shook her head. "They won't believe it. They will when they see it." Leo said, "I recorded all of it. The training cameras picked up everything. I downloaded the footage." Her eyes widened. "You did?" He nodded. "They can't ignore proof." Ilya took a long breath, her hands trembling. "If this fails, I'll lose everything." "You won't," Leo said. "You've already gained something more important." "What's that?" She whispered. "A voice," he said. "And I'll stand beside you when you use it." The next morning, Leo requested time during the camp's daily briefing. Most of the recruits and officers gathered in the hall, curious why a human engineer wanted to speak. Leo stepped onto the small platform and connected his tablet to the main screen. He didn't give a speech at first, just pressed play. The video started, showing Ilya standing in front of the injured trainees, arms wide, body shaking. Then the beast charging and Leo rushing in. The crowd watched in silence as the entire fight played out, every scream, every moment of courage. Then came the part where Ilya's body glowed, not from fear, but from power. As she leaped onto the predator's back, risking everything, when the screen went black. No one moved. Leo finally said, "She didn't run, she didn't freeze, she didn't hide, and you want to punish her for glowing while saving lives." A murmur rose in the crowd. One alien trainer stepped forward and said, "That wasn't weakness." Another added, "That was warrior spirit." Soon, others began to nod. Leo looked to the council members, their faces unsure, and then toward the door where Ilya stood. Her arms crossed, no longer hiding, her skin bloomed softly visible under her sleeve. She didn't cry this time, she just stood tall, letting them see who she truly was, not because she needed their approval, but because someone had finally believed in her. Asterisk after the video played and the room fell quiet. No one spoke for a long time. Ilya didn't move, didn't flinch. She just stood there, letting them see everything, the glow on her arms, the way her chest rose and fell with each steady breath. This time she wasn't hiding. Leo walked off the platform and stood beside her. The message was clear. He wasn't there to speak for her anymore, just to stand with her. A few council members left the room without a word. Others remained, unsure of what came next, but something had changed. The room didn't laugh, didn't point, they just looked hand. Maybe, for the first time, truly saw her. Later that evening, Ilya sat beside Leo in the small workroom, a blanket around her shoulders, her eyes staring at the soft flicker of the portable heater. "I thought they would throw me out right away," she said quietly. "They didn't," Leo replied. Handing her a cup of warm broth, they listened. She took it with both hands, letting the heat soak into her fingers. "I don't know what to do now." "Whatever you want," Leo said. "You don't have to run anymore." She looked at him, her voice softer now. "You didn't just protect me, you changed how they saw me." He smiled. "No, you did that. I just gave them a reason to look." She sipped the broth slowly. Then whispered, "I was never supposed to be strong." "You are," Leo said. "In every way that matters." She shook her head gently. "No, not strong like my people want, but maybe." "Strong in a new way," he nodded. "That's the only kind of strength I believe in." The next few days felt different. People didn't stare as much, and when they did, it wasn't always cruel. One of the senior instructors even came up to Ilya after a session and nodded in quiet respect. He didn't say anything, but he didn't have to. Ilya trained harder now, not to prove herself. But because she wanted to, she began helping Leo with more tech work too. And together, they finally completed the suit. It was sleek and light, designed like a second skin. Its layers could hide her bloom, reinforce her muscles, and even boost her reflexes slightly. It didn't make her something else, it just helped her become more of what she already was. When she tried it on for the first time, Leo turned away to give her privacy, but she called softly, "You can look now." He turned, and what he saw made his heart catch for a second. She stood tall, her silver-white hair tied back, her violet eyes steady. The suit fit her perfectly. Strong yet flexible, beautiful in the way a storm is beautiful. Quiet but powerful. "Well?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "You look like a warrior," he said. Smiling, she stepped closer. "I feel like one." That night, while they sat under the stars outside the base, Ilya leaned against his shoulder, her voice low. "I used to laugh at you every day, I remember," Leo said with a chuckle. "I thought if I mocked you, you'd stay away," she said. "But you didn't. You stayed because you mattered," Leo replied. Even when you didn't believe it, she tilted her head up, her eyes softer than ever before. "Leo, if I had been born human, would you have liked me?" He turned and met her gaze. "I don't care what you were born as. I like you now for a moment." They said nothing more. The air between them, calm and warm, filled with unspoken understanding. Then, Ilya whispered, "I never knew peace could feel like this." He smiled, wrapping his arm gently around her shoulder. "You've always had the heart of a fighter, but now you can rest too." She looked up at the sky, the stars blinking quietly. "Promise me something, anything," he said. "If the council ever forces me to leave, will you come find me?" She asked. He looked into her eyes, serious and steady. "I won't let them take you alone, and if they ever do, I'll chase the stars to bring you back." She gave a soft laugh, then leaned her head against him again. "Then I'm not afraid anymore." That night, she didn't sleep far away on the mat or near the heater. She slept beside him, warm and calm. Not because she needed protection, but because she had found something stronger than armor. She had found someone who saw her, accepted her, stayed with her, and in that quiet night, wrapped in silence and safety, a tiny alien warrior let go of her fear, not because she became someone else, but because she finally became herself. The base was silent again, not because of fear this time, but because things had calmed. Days passed without alarms. No more monsters, no council meetings, just quiet training, and late-night work between Leo and Ilya. She still wore the suit. They made together, but not to hide anymore. Now she wore it like a badge of who she was, part warrior, part survivor, part something new. Leo noticed she no longer looked over her shoulder when walking through the halls. She no longer flinched when voices rose. And when other trainees greeted her, she didn't lower her eyes. At first, she didn't know how to respond. Sometimes she just nodded. Sometimes she even smiled. One night, just before lights out, Leo was lying on his small bunk, half asleep. When the door opened slowly, Ilya stepped in, still dressed in her suit. Her silver hair messy, her eyes tired but clear. She didn't say a word, just walked over and sat on the edge of the bed. Her hands in her lap, he sat up slowly. Noticing how quiet she was, I couldn't sleep, she said softly. Leo scooted over, letting her sit beside him. Nightmares again. She shook her head. No. Not this time. He waited, giving her space. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees, eyes fixed on the floor. When I was younger, she said quietly, I cried once in front of my mother. Just once. I was 6 cycles old, scared of lightning. She slapped me and told me warriors don't cry. Leo frowned, but said nothing. She didn't mean it cruel, Ilya added. It was what she was taught. What everyone believed, pain is strength, silence is survival. And now? Leo asked. Ilya turned toward him, her voice trembling. Now I don't want to be silent anymore. She slid closer, then slowly leaned into him. Her head resting on his chest, her arms curled around his side. Leo froze for a moment, then wrapped his arms around her, holding her gently. That's when he felt at her body trembling. Not with fear, but with something else. Her breathing became shaky, and he felt warm drops hit his shirt. She was crying. I'm not crying because I'm scared. She whispered, I'm crying because I feel safe. Leo tightened his arms around her, pressing his cheek gently against her hair. Then cry, Ilya, you've earned it. She'll let go of everything. All the years of pressure, hiding, pretending, mocking others to protect herself now. It melted away in soft tears that no longer came with shame. They sat like that for a long time. The room filled only with quiet breathing and the soft hum of the bass systems. Eventually, Ilya looked up. Her eyes red but peaceful. Do you think someone like me could have a place in the human world? Leo smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I think someone like you could change the human world. She laughed, just a little, then whispered, You make me want to live, not just survive. You already are, he said. You're living in a way most warriors never do. She rested her forehead against his. Their breaths slow and steady. Do humans ever choose someone, like bond with them? He chuckled. Yes, we do. Have you chosen anyone? She asked, voice soft. He looked into her eyes. I think I have. She smiled then. The kind of smile that made his heart feel full. Not sharp, not teasing, just real. I've never been chosen before, she whispered. You have now, Leo replied. That night, she didn't leave his room. Not because she was broken or afraid, but because she had found her place not in a dorm, not in a squad, but right there, in his arms, in the morning. The sun rose over the twin moons, casting pale gold light through the window. Ilya opened her eyes slowly, blinking at the warmth on her face. She turned to see Leo still sleeping beside her, his arm loosely around her waist. His face calm. She didn't move for a while, just watched him, like she was seeing peace for the first time. Then she whispered, Thank you for staying. And though he didn't hear her, his fingers gently squeezed hers in his sleep. That was enough.